So we have another great guest joining us now, friend of the program. Gentleman wears a lot of hats. He's a former Louisiana state senator, of course, an esteemed attorney. He's also an author. He's a columnist. He's a researcher. And we're very pleased to welcome him back to the Ringside Politics program. Our friend John Milkovich is with us here this morning. And John, how are you, sir? Good morning and welcome.
This thing will not be over today. We need to be prepared to stay until the fight is over, Jeff. And to me, that means, yes, vote. We need to continue to pray. We need to continue to write checks for the court fights that lie ahead. Yeah, this is going to go to World War III. We need to continue to speak out, and we need to continue to demand that our election officials do their job.
Wow. Wow, that's a bleak assessment, John Milkovich. So you think this thing is going to last weeks? What do you think? I mean, we're not going to know. When do you think we're going to know a victor?
Decades ago, Professor Francis Sullivan at LSU Law School used to teach his young and probably not that bright law students, look, what are we really talking about? What are we talking about? And he was trying to teach us, let's look functionally, let's look at what's really going on. You and I, everybody knows that Trump's going to win the vote. But this is the issue. They are going to try to steal this election. They've been working at this a long time. We're already hearing of election glitches all over America or in different places across the state. And this is the reality. Stealing elections is who they are. So I believe that we need to be prepared to stay and fight, because that's exactly what we may need to do to preserve our republic.
John Milkovich with us, Jeff Crouere here. It is Ringside Politics on the airways on WGSO 990 AM, WGSO.com. John, you're an astute analyst. Do you think we've made improvements in the last 4 years in our elections?
Look, this is the problem. Dominion voting systems is counting the votes in 28 out of 50 states in America. That is a major concern. And, Jeff, as you know, and we've talked about this on the air, this is not a conspiracy theory. This is fact. Dominion counts votes in Louisiana. They're not likely to try to steal Louisiana because they know that there's more Trump voters than there are people in Louisiana. But Dominion was the voting system company in use in every one of the 6 battleground states in which millions of Americans believe the 2020 election was stolen. Dominion was the voting system the voting system in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. So this is the deal. Marxists steal elections. They have no morals. So Americans, we need to hunker down. We need to be prepared to fight. By the way, I'm not advocating violence or illegality. I am advocating that we continue to use our First Amendment rights, speak out, demand that our election officials do their job, and understand this. I'm sorry, Jeff. You probably had a great thought, and I interrupted you. I apologize.
No, keep on rolling. Keep on rolling.
Well, look, this is what we've talked about. Decorated combat veteran and election security expert Phil Waldron has documented, and look, not conspiracy theories. This is filings with the Security and Exchange Commission, the SEC. The Communist Chinese Party owns the private equity firm whose board controls Dominion. The president of the Communist Chinese Bank is a board member of the private equity firm that owns Dominion. We're talking about Staple Street Capital. And the only company that has access to the codes and testing for Dominion is in Shenzhen, China. And that company that has the codes and testing for the Dominion vote counting software is the Communist Chinese Party company. We know, and this came out in the media, that 1 month before the 2020 presidential election, Communist Chinese entities paid $400 million to Staple Street. That's the parent corporation of Dominion. And, Mike, one obvious fact, it takes a lot of bought and paid for politicians for Dominion voting systems to be counting votes in any election in America or Louisiana. So the question for Nancy Landry, our new Secretary of State, who was handpicked in part by her predecessor, Kyle Ardoin, is, why haven't you fired Dominion? Why is Dominion, a communist Chinese-controlled entity, still counting votes in Louisiana? Why can't Louisiana be first in a good thing? We're at the bottom of all these rankings. Why isn't Louisiana become the first state in Louisiana to say, Dominion, here's your pink slip, take a walk. We don't want you in the borders of Louisiana. And maybe if we have the courage to fire this communist Chinese-controlled entity, maybe some states and public officials across America will get some steel in their backbone. So this is my message to Nancy Landry. Of course, this is a Jeff. We always, sometimes it's better to ask forgiveness than permission. I would love for Nancy Landry to come debate this lowly former state senator on the Jeff Crouere show and explain to the people of Louisiana, Nancy Landry, why you have done a victory tour, so to speak, telling us what a great election system we have, but you didn't tell the people the rest of the story, that Dominion is our voting vendor or our voting systems company in Louisiana, and they're a communist Chinese-controlled entity. Come on to Jeff Crouere, Nancy, and explain that, because I know you've done interviews. You've probably done some on Jeff's show. You've done interviews across the state bragging about our system. And Jeff, this is the reality. We don't have we don't even have the codes, passwords, or testing to the Dominion software that counts votes. So the best we can do is basically take Dominion's word for it whenever they count votes in a Louisiana election. Well, that's not acceptable in America, anywhere in America, and that's not acceptable in Louisiana.
No, I agree. But we just heard a report from her. It was just on the news that those who are making claims that the machines are connected to the internet are false. Those are false rumors. These machines are protected, and there's no possibility that they are connected to the internet. Your response?
Okay, that is a phony, deceptive argument, Nancy. They don't have to be connected to the internet. Dominion controls the software. That means they control the programming of the software. That means if they rig or fix or skew the vote counting algorithms or vote counting software, tabulation software, we're fried. And I'm like everybody else in America. I ran into one of my church members this last Sunday, 2 days ago, and everybody agrees Trump's going to win the vote. But I said, well, my concern is that they try to steal the election again. And his comment to me is, that's what everybody's concerned about. So, Nancy, Dominion doesn't have to be hooked up to the internet. That's ridiculous. Everybody that knows any more about computers than I do knows all they have to do is rig the software. And you're going to try to tell me that this communist Chinese entity that, by the way, communist Chinese, this is a news flash, Nancy, they hate Donald Trump because he stood up to him. Dominion doesn't need to be hooked up to the internet for them to fry an election. What needs to be happen is for them to give us rigged vote counting software. And Nancy Landry hasn't told the people of Louisiana, we can't even audit any election in Louisiana because there's no paper ballots, there's no paper trail, and we don't have the codes, test passwords for testing to get into the Dominion software, which they control, to find out if any of these election results are true. So my question is, what in the world, and by the way, I'm not advocating that anyone do anything threatening to Nancy Landry, but there's nothing illegal about calling her office and asking her to either A, fire Dominion, or B, resign. If
John Milkovich could design the election system here in Louisiana, it would be composed of paper ballots only, John?
Sure. I mean, hand-marked secure paper ballots. And, of course, people say, well, it would take forever to count the votes. That's an unusual thing because in 1860, President Abraham Lincoln was elected. That was before we had electronic voting machines. Of course, Jeff, you knew that. You know your history better than I do. He was elected, and the election results were known around the country by telegraph the same night as the election. So this is a scam where they're trying, we can't go back to pay. Oh, absolutely, we can go to paper ballots. They use them in European nations. They use them, in Europe they're having some of the same fights we are. Conservatives are trying to say, we don't want immigrants who hate our nation to come and destroy our streets and endanger our families and desecrate our public temples, our Christian temples of worship.
Yeah.
By the way, Muslims are getting saved, so there are Muslims that are getting saved by Jesus Christ. Thank you. God's always working. But as far as saying that we're going to allow Dominion to have a role in deciding who our next president is, been there, done that, got the T-shirt. It's called 2020.
Yeah.
Already been
504.
there. And
Yeah, and that nightmare is still with us. I mean, we never really resolved anything, did we?
no. And a couple things. Listen, I'm not expecting them to try to steal the vote against Donald Trump in Louisiana because, as I said, there's more Trump voters in Louisiana than there are people. But this is my concern. Why are they in use anywhere? Why are we using electronic voting machines? And by the way, Kyle Ardoin tried to give them a $90 million. He said, "Yours trying to give Dominion another $90 million contract." And Nancy Landry is saying, "By the way, we're going to need to buy some more machines." I wonder who you're going to buy them from, Nancy. We need to get the electronic voting machine ? And quicksand and trap door out of our election system, and we need to go ahead and have citizens.
Would we be the first state in the nation to have paper ballots only? Would we be like the trendsetter if we decided to do that?
Jeff, I don't know the answer to that. I wish I did, but this is what I can tell you. Louisiana, and this is what Nancy Landry hasn't told us. Louisiana probably has the least transparent elections in America.
Yeah.
And we do because we have statewide elections with electronic voting machines and no paper backup. And so how is that something? And, she said that our elections are safe and secure on October 4th, on October 14th. She said, quote, "In Louisiana, we do elections right," unquote. I'm sorry, Ms. Landry, that's a false statement. And again, I'm not asking that anyone do anything threatening or harmful to her and her person, but I'm simply saying that as a public official, she needs to either fire Dominion or resign. This is a disgrace. Let's just get honest. As Francis Sullivan our former law professor would say, what are we talking about? What are we really talking about? Why is everyone in America on pins and needles today, November 5th, 2024? Does anyone really think that Kamala Harris can beat Donald Trump in a fair election? Nobody believes that. You can't find a Democrat who would honestly tell you that they believe that. No one believes it. The reason we're on pins and needles is because we don't trust the Kamala Harris. And it's, by the way, we don't trust them to not try to steal this election. And, that's why everyone's
nervous.
on pins. And obviously, as you can tell, I'm on pins and needles, and I am because I feel like
I think everyone is. Let's check in with our friend Mark in Gretna, who's joining us here this morning. Hey, Mark, what's on your mind, my friend? Good morning. Welcome.
Hey, how are y'all doing?
All right, my friend. Good morning.
Hey, I haven't called in a while, and, I know it's a big day for a lot of people. I just really want to stress to the American listeners how important it is. I mean, not only from a Ukrainian standpoint, the Ukraine war, which is a never-ending money laundering scam, we all know that, but all foreign aid to all nations, Ukraine, Israel, every other, all these nations in the Middle East that we destroyed, and now we have our hand in. We should have never messed with them. We've created these war refugees that have funded and fueled the Crouere plan. And I actually feel bad, Jeff, for a lot of these people that are coming to this nation. They're just pawns in a game. And, they tell the Americans, Jeff, they say, well, you stopped having babies. So we have no choice but to relocate people here to do the cement work, to sweep the streets, to clean up at the Superdome after the big events. So, it's a 4D chess game that's at play right now. And I honestly, although I am going to vote today, I think the agendas of Babylon now are so deeply ingrained that it's above. We can't vote our way out of it at this point. I think all we could do is pray and then internally start understanding what we're putting into our bodies. I know you are a big advocate for that, Jeff, especially with the COVID vaccines and beyond.
Yes.
I know
Yes.
everyone who didn't take it doesn't regret not taking it, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And, I think that says a lot. We all need to, again, go out and vote. I have no issue with that, but don't put your weight in the results, because we need to internally take care of our families, know what we're putting in our bodies, and get debt-free personally. Read the vaccine inserts, know all that. I think that, again, the reason I called is pray for this nation, pray for people to have discernment to know what's good for their own self and their own body. Because, again, the currency is backed by nothing, Jeff, and it's losing its value at a very rapid pace. The Federal Reserve is a Ponzi scheme, and it's coming to fruition now.
Mark, it's always a pleasure to hear from you, sir, and thank you for sharing with us. John Milkovich, any comments?
Well, and I'm certainly not an expert on every very complex issue that Mark raised, and obviously he's a deep thinker, and I appreciate his Christian testimony that we need to pray, and he's absolutely right. We need Jesus Christ at this moment in our nation's history. But the fact is, God usually works through people. The Bible proves that. Our everyday lives prove it. Jesus said, "You'll know them by their fruits." God expects us to do good things. James said, "You show me your faith by your works. I show you my." Excuse me. James said, "I show you my faith by my works," is what I'm trying to say. So the point I'm getting at is someone is going to have to be dealing with these complex immigration issues and dealing with foreign countries and the perpetual wars that Team Harris, Biden, Bush, Cheney, Obama, Clinton seem to love. And who do you want to have making that decision? And I believe Donald Trump is a great man. Is he perfect? No. But the only perfect man I know of got nailed to a cross on Calvary 2,000 years ago. But Donald Trump has risked his life. He did not need this job. He did need this gig. He's survived at least 2 documented assassination attempts that we know of. And it's amazing.
Probably many more.
Yeah.
We only have about 2 minutes. I do want to squeeze in one more call, and we thank you for joining us, John Milkovich. Let's go to you, Barry in Metairie. Hey, Barry, how are you, sir? Good morning. Welcome.
Jeff, look, we got to put this election in God's hands, and I am concerned about the Democrats cheating like they did in 2020. I'm going to make this prediction, Jeff. I'm a regular caller. I listen to your show every day, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate your show. You're a true American, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If we don't have a projected winner tonight, and they do the same shenanigans they did in 2020, where they stop counting and finish tomorrow, Trump will lose. If they give us the projected winner tonight, and we get the count done, today's supposed to be election day, not election week and not election month.
You're
so
right.
I suggest everybody that's going to the polls, you see any voter fraud, get your cameras out, film everything that looks funny, because I wouldn't put nothing past this corrupt administration and George Soros behind the Democrats with the dark money. And who owns Dominion, Jeff? I'm going to hang up and listen. Thank you.
All right, and we'll give the final 30 seconds to John Milkovich to answer that question. Who owns Dominion, John?
Scary answer to your friend's question. Dominion is a subsidiary corporation. The dominant corporate entity in that is Staple Street Capital, and Staple Street Capital is a Chinese-owned company. So that's the concern. And the Communist Chinese Party owns the private equity firm whose board controls Dominion. Nobody talks about that. Well, Phil Waldron talks about it.
And we just did right here on the Ringside Box program. John Milkovich, thank you, my friend. Appreciate you and your work.
Donald Trump for president, Jeff Crouere for White House press secretary.
There you go. All right, thank you, sir. John Milkovich with us. All right, brief time out. We'll take care of some business. More Ringside coming your way. We'll be right back.